Welcome back to Chow Time Pod. It's your host, Brett. Got a video today from Peace World. Woman realizes that she's not the prize and can't cope. Please like, subscribe them below. I really appreciate that. Chow time. Another one suggested by you guys.
Sometimes I go out with girls who have boyfriends, and it's like, if you love your boyfriend so much, just stay at home.
Yeah,
because you're ruining the vibe.
You're ruining it.
You're ruining the vibe for us single girls. Like, of course, like when us single girls are going out, we might meet some guys, or we might be on the table with a guy.
You're mingling, man.
We're mingling. And then you're moving bare hostile. You can't even talk to no one because sorry, I've got a man. It's like, okay, just go home then.
Arms by the side like this. Can't talk to no one.
You can't talk to no one. Don't want to talk to anyone from the opposite sex. Even if it's just in a friendly way, they won't do that. They'll be like, nah, sorry, I can't come on the table because my boyfriend. It's like, just go home. You just go home. Right?
I agree.
They're literally talking shit on women that are in relationships that want to protect their boundaries. Yes, these women probably shouldn't be going out with single women, but they went out with you and now you're talking shit on them. Why do single women go out with fucking women in relationships in the first place? This doesn't even make sense, and they talk shit on each other like this.
Ruining the night for the girlies. Yeah.
If this video isn't the video representation of why when some women get into relationships, they cut off their single friends, and I don't know what is. Trying to act like entertaining another guy in a friendly way when you're in a relationship is okay.
Right?
They will drag you to hell. They really will.
He said nothing wrong. Like, it devalues the woman when you go through multiple men and have multiple baby daddies. We don't want to deal with that. If you got 3 kids and 3 baby daddies, it's like, damn, your decision-making skills are horrible.
Y'all forget that y'all the ones who playing right there. And then y'all forget that I'm 41 years old. I got a 25-year-old child. So you're basing your...
So you still made mistakes. It doesn't change anything that it's fucking 25 years later.
Perception of me from 25 years ago.
Come on.
I'm not that person I'm not that kid that I was 25 years ago.
Speak on.
And I'm not that young adult that I was 25 years ago. I've grown from that. I've healed from that. I now make better choices, better decisions. Right. And I live more of a healthy love life, you know?
Bullshit.
Than I did then. So you're going to tell me, oh, well, you got this many kids, I can't date you.
No,
but that happened 25 years ago.
Not the number of
At what
kids.
point are you going to give grace? Like, at how long are you going to?
We don't have to. That's the problem these women don't understand. Men don't have to do shit for you. Nor do we have to give you grace in any way, shape, or form. It's our preference. Just like it's your preference for tall, rich motherfuckers.
I don't want to use the word punish, for lack of better words, a woman for her past.
It's
like Brian came out and said, I don't judge a woman from their past. We all make mistakes. And then he basically just flat out judged.
That's the gentleman's preference. We're not judging you for how many kids.
Yeah.
It's how many baby fathers you got. If you get with a guy and I'm 40 years old per se, and I have 8 kids by 6 different women, that says something.
And then everybody's situation is different.
That
like
part.
4
we
kids
all have
and
different
4 baby
circles.
daddies.
But that's not
3
what
kids
it
and 3
was.
baby daddies.
My children I have by 2 different men. And I was in a 12-year relationship that was abusive. I escaped that by God's grace.
Every single relationship they've ever been in, doesn't matter if it's good or bad, it's always abusive.
I give thanks every day. And so when I moved on to the next relationship, I'm just looking for something better than what I had. And just because it was better doesn't mean it was for me. So when I realized this isn't for me, should I marry this man just because society is going to look at...
It took her 12 years to realize. Was it for her? The abusiveness.
me like I'm a failure as a mother or as a woman, or no, should I keep going and look for what is really for me? I'm not going to say that I've made all the best decisions as a young adult. I never said I made the best decisions.
And that's what we're referring to, the decision-making skills.
Yeah, that's now. Yeah, that's in the past. So you're not going to meet a woman and she tell you she stole a candy bar at 14 years old. Oh no, I can't do that. I don't do thieves.
She's always a thief.
Yeah, she was a kid. She made a mistake. She ate that and the candy bar is gone.
You think it's okay? People really think it's okay to do some of these things and just scave over it later. No, it really shows your character.
So in my situation, I feel like I ate that. I ate that relationship that I went through. I ate being a young.
No, you didn't eat it because there's still remnants of it still out there. At least the candy bar, you eat it and it's gone.
Teenage parent, I ate it. Like the young kids say, you ate. I feel like I ate. I've grown from that. I'm not that person that I was.
The relationship
so why?
is awesome, but the key, you're bearing the man's children.
All right.
Look, it was all those years ago, but today, you're still single. That's a problem. Okay, because that tells me your bad decisions haven't ended. Because if they did end, you would have been married already. Look, I think this is a big difference as well in how men and women think. Men think in generalities. If a woman has this many baby dads, then I'm not going near her. But then women will be like, oh, but what about if this nuance, and then if this nuance and that nuance? And that's cool. But we're thinking in a risk-averse way. We don't have time to be thinking about all these nuances. Having no-nos, having things that are complete deal breakers is totally fine. So yes, in most men's eyes, if you have multiple baby daddies, it's gonna be a no. I'm sorry that
Even if you had just one kid, most men nowadays are in the boat of no single moms.
doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter if you're going through mental health issues, doesn't matter if it's the area you lived up in, doesn't matter if you didn't grow up with your parents. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter.
Are you going to be mad if I make a generalization?
Nope.
Men are more violent than women.
If we're looking at homosexual relationships, for example, they've actually found that gay men have the lowest incidence rate of domestic violence. And then next up, in terms of couplings, you have heterosexual relationships. And then the highest incidence rate of domestic violence is actually in lesbian relationships.
I would almost argue that it's unreported among gay males. But don't you guys stand on the point that men are stronger than women?
Yeah.
Don't you want to protect women against
Doesn't
the
make you more
strong men?
violent just because you're stronger.
I would think that.
For instance, there's going to be women who are stronger than other women, right?
Sure.
Would you then infer that would mean that women who are stronger than other women would just be more violent because they're stronger?
No, I think that testosterone makes men more violent.
Okay, but there's going to be higher rates of testosterone in stronger women than less strong women.
So
this
then,
inference,
if they would have more testosterone, then they would be more violent. Yeah.
So your inference is that testosterone equals violence?
Yeah.
So can estrogen.
Here is a generalization. The woman made a generalization and the men were upset. But her generalization was 100% correct. Men are more violent than women. On average, we know this for a fact. There's no need to argue this. Now, however, if you're talking in the confines of relationships, clearly the fact that men are more violent than women isn't the reason why domestic violence in heterosexual relationships, for example, exists.
Agreed.
Because when you look at homosexual relationships and you look at lesbian relationships, it tells you that there's something different going on. There is something that women do in relationships that causes violence, just according to these stats. Because in homosexual relationships, domestic violence, very low. In lesbian relationships, domestic violence, very high. There's something that women are doing within the confines of a relationship that increases the level of violence. However, men are naturally more violent than women.
We have to be. This makes sense to me. I 100% agree with P World on this one. Because we had to fight the world. So men were inclined to be a little bit more violent and aggressive because we had to protect. And to protect, you have to somewhat be aggressive.
For Biden. Can I bite your sign? I want to eat your sign.
I'm gonna.
Because it's
I don't
fucked,
consent.
like you.
I don't consent.
Wonder how
What's your
easy that would be to
stance?
break.
Actually, eating my sign. Actually, ate my
Fuck
sign.
you and Trump.
I don't think she liked my sign very much.
Psycho bitch.
I mean, she did. Actually, not. Yo, what are you doing? Yes, I see that you know your judo well.
See, this is the part where I don't get it. Just because someone supports Trump, someone supports Kamala or whatever the fuck it is, do we really have to do shit like this? People have different opinions. It's okay. It's okay.
Can I eat it?
Nah, you can't eat it. You don't have consent.
No consent. Fuck Trump. Fuck
Look at that, eh?
Ironic that a white man is wearing a woman for Trump and a feminist for Trump when I consider myself a feminist. And
did you just assume my gender? You said white man.
Okay, I see your point there.
How do you know I'm not a woman?
I see your point.
You need to check your white privilege, your white female privilege, I think.
You think?
A little bit. I actually identify.
She's actually questioning herself right now. Like this is how stupid these people are right now. Just, wait, really?
As a non-binary, gender-fluid dragonkin.
The closed-mindedness and the lack of tolerance of different opinions when it comes to liberals is something that in the UK we are too well aware of.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak about this on my second channel, but they are literally allowing kid fondlers to go out of prison because of overcrowdedness, while simultaneously locking up people for giving differing opinions online. Somebody says something that goes against the agenda online, they get locked up. But the kid fondlers, oh, they on the streets. It's too crowded in here. You guys gotta get out. It doesn't make any sense. I've spoken about this in pertaining to white men before. This is what you guys gotta do. When they bring up the fact that you're a white man, you just gotta say, really? How do you know that? That's crazy for you to assume my gender. And then you gotta turn it on them like this guy did. Okay, you're showing your white female privilege, and just make the discussion real stupid, because that's what they're bringing to the table.
Agreed.
Idiocy.
Asking Russian women, are you a feminist?
Я не феминистка. Но вот эти истории... Вот, мужчины козлы, я не буду брить подмышки. Нет.
Нет. Не совсем. Я больше за равноправие. Ну, то есть для меня вот именно феминизм, он отвечает чисто за права женщин, не учитывая как-то права мужчин.
Нет. Вообще ни в коем разе.
As someone who grew up in a place where the women weren't feminists, they weren't indoctrinated by the ideology, the way men and women treat each other is completely different. The way women perceive men is completely different. The interactions between men and women are completely different. And if you know anything about the Caribbean, the women aren't submissive, right? They aren't acting like they need men, but they don't hate men. That's the biggest difference. Like, you can be independent, right? Have your own things and not hate men. And I think that's what a lot of women from countries that don't push the feminist ideology, I think that's what they see. They see the hatred. And they're like, I don't have that in my heart, therefore I can't be a feminist. Because I guarantee the majority of these women do pretty much everything feminists do. They probably have their own jobs. Maybe they have their own place. They pay their own bills. They're living an independent lifestyle. They just don't hate men.
Are you a feminist?
This is why when men say, it's a man-hating ideology, it's very true, because other countries see it that way. They just see the sheer media against men, how men get treated, how everything we say gets turned around against us. Me too.
No, I've never been one.
What is a feminist?
Feminist is someone that fights for women's rights, equality, and they are basically for women.
And you are not that.
I am not that. And that's because I don't see it surface level. So if you ask a girl on TikTok what's a feminist, she'll tell you what I told you. But me, I know that it's deeper than that. So that's why I'm like, don't identify with it. And also because of the way they go about the whole, this is how we're for women, the way that you're going about it, it's already a zero for me. So the title is not enough. Just because you said you're for women and you're fighting for the equality rights of women is not enough for me to take it on. What makes me take it on is how you go about that, trying to bring equality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
What is the deeper understanding of you and feminism and why you don't support it?
Okay, so in the beginning, I was always very sketchy about feminism because I was like, okay, I hear what they're saying. Like, okay, voting, what, men didn't allow us, what.
Damn, what? Hey, this is an agent, Mos. Yes.
And I was like, okay, I see where you guys are coming from. But yeah, there was still not enough for me to be like, I'm taking on that because I saw in the way that they went about it. So when I did research on feminism, because I was like, okay, I'm very unsettled with...
By the way, this is exactly why the majority of us are against feminism. Do we want a world where women are oppressed and they can't do anything? Of course not. Of course not. Are there certain things that women face today that men don't? Of course. But there's a way of going about things. And there's a way of going about things that will put men off. And that's what feminists do. And I feel like a lot of them do it on purpose.
This feminism thing, let me get deep into it. Let me not just be satisfied with we are equals for women, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So when I deep dived into it, I got to ask questions about like, okay, so the history says that women were not allowed to vote. Why was that? Like I said, if you go to Google and you're like, why were women not allowed to vote? It's going to say, they said they're
men
stupid,
said they were stupid.
And they're very emotional, so no. But if you go deeper and you go into the books, you will actually learn that, for example, the reason why women were not allowed to vote is because men were the heads of the house. So they voted on behalf of their households.
Almost like voting on behalf of your kids. It's
Basically,
the same reason kids can't vote.
You see? So women had very much influence in what their husbands voted for. So it was just like, out of all the families, one man.
To represent, almost like our politicians now.
Yes.
Like, don't you sit in parliament? Is it because we're stupid? No, it's because we have representatives.
Yes, we've got one person representing us and what we're believing in, etc. The other reason was that women were more into, like, they were voting more municipal and local thing, yes. Because they were in charge of the schools, the hospitals, the shops and whatnot, because women were more nurturers and whatnot. Those are the...
She's talking about white women. I just want to put out, you have to get that out there real quick. Because they were the only one with any sort of power, right?
At least at that time.
Roles that they played. Yeah. So anything with children, education, teaching, they were there. So they had the power there. Yeah. Government at the time was force. Force meaning war, anything that had to do with violence. And because women are not, you're not going to war, you're not going to fight for the country. So why must you vote? Sure. Do you understand? So it was like you still have influence in other areas, just not this one, because it's like saying someone in the receptionist must have a say in the finance department in a company. Why? You're not even here. Like, you're not even participating in the things that we're...
I like this girl.
Just be a woman, but please continue.
Sorry, I'm just making an example.
Sure. No, I hear exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so even if it was a man, let's say whoever in that department, you can't have a say in finance because you don't know anything about finance. You're not in that department, you see. Another reason that I saw that was very important is that there was a lot of women that were against women voting because they saw it as if women start voting, then it's going to progress and more things and more and more and more, which is going to lead to things like the women were saying at that time that if we make men and women equal sexes, and I say sexes specifically because body, I'm talking about biology. If we're saying you and me are equal, it means that chivalry will die. What is chivalry? Politeness towards women, men being polite to women and say, okay, she's a woman, she can't pick up this heavy thing.
100%.
I need to help her. Because now I'm saying me and you are the same thing, it means that you don't need to help me.
Yeah, cool.
Exactly. So those are the things that contributed to gender-based violence because men don't
contributed to?
Things like gender-based violence.
Damn. Did we just go there?
Yes.
No, please continue.
My girl.
They were scared that things will, because if there's no chivalry, if there's no politeness towards women, it means that it's easy for you to be violent to a woman because you no longer see her as this weak, small, tiny thing that you need to protect.
That's exactly how men see it now, baby. We've been shown the light. Social media has shown women's true nature, and they've lost their class, their decorum, everything.
Because at those times it was very mandatory that men needed to protect women, etc., etc. So, so that's why women of those times today.
This is a tough point. Look, this kind of goes against what I be saying. Now, I'm of the belief that back in the days it was a little bit more violent. I could be wrong. I have no data to back that up. That is just an opinion, right? But I could be totally wrong, and this woman could be totally...
I totally disagree with you, P. Back in the day, it was less violent because, social norms were much harsher. Much, much harsher.
You're right, because I've said this before. The men who think that you're the same, of course they're more likely to be violent because they think you're the same. Why would a man who understands the differences between men and women, who understands that men and women aren't equal, be violent to women unless he has a mental illness?
And want that. So I believe that we are equal, ne? But we're just not equal in the same way. You have your strengths, I have my weaknesses, I have my strengths, you have your weaknesses. Do you understand? So we're equal as in we're equally as important, but we're just not going to say the equality is not going to look the same. it's just not going to look the same. And that is okay, you see. So those are the reasons that they gave. And I was like, these things, they make sense. And even the 72 years, it took 72 years for them to actually accept women into voting. And it also goes back to race again. When they were allowed to vote, it was only white women.
Sure.
Black women were not there. If it was feminism and about women, why wasn't it just all women? And also at that time, black men were not allowed to vote because they were slaves. Do you understand? So they knew that, okay, if we say women must vote, you must also go and fetch the black man there and say that he's allowed to vote as well. And also another reason was that people that own properties were the ones that voted. Men were the ones that own properties. They're the head of the house. They're the ones that paid the bills. You understand? So things like that, you don't own property. That's why you don't vote. You see things like that. So it was like...
Well, and there were men who didn't own properties as well. They don't talk about them. There were men that couldn't vote as well.
There's a lot of things that made sense. And I read those books and I watched a lot of... Documentaries, yes, of women talking about this feminism thing, and that there was even a time that they had to overrule, because a lot of women were so against this thing, they had to overrule it because the women were like, these ones, they're too comfortable, they're in their houses, enjoying their husbands, doing everything, they're taking care of kids, we need to overrule them. And I could go deeper into things like why they wanted women to come and work as well. And that's an elite thing. The elitists of those times, they needed more people to work because men were dying in wars, things like that. But I just went deep into it and I realized that that's why we're so unhappy today. That's why there's a lot of women who are like, oh, I want to be a stay-at-home wife. And that's because we were never necessarily supposed to be doing this. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that we get to work, but originally we were never supposed to be living like this. And that's why a lot of women are trying to go back in time and be like, oh, I want to be a stay-at-home girlfriend.
Yeah.
Now you're making things up.
Girlfriend allowance.
Girlfriend allowance, which was something that your husband would have done for you because he would have came home, here's the money, I come from working. Now you have to make things up because you wish that you would go to a time where you didn't need to do this thing. Why? Because naturally you're not necessarily supposed to be doing these things.
This woman was cooking with straight grease.
Woo.
Nothing but grease. Okay, because I've spoken about this on the channel. The idea that the feminists, they were just so great. They were just so influential that they got the government to overturn. It was always going to happen. As soon as men went in wars, as soon as the population of men started to decrease, women started to get into the workplace, the elite said, whoa, women are very capable. This is very good. Because when it comes down to it, it's all about the money. Every decision every government makes is all about the money. But pretty much everything this woman said was straight facts. I don't know who she is, but I love it.
I love this. I love that she's foreign. She definitely seems African and was not born here because she has that accent. So she knows how it was over there. And she sees how it is over here. And she sees all of the different ideologies and she's questioning it. She even deep dived into it. I think we've covered a video from her before. I'm gonna have to try to look for more of her videos. Please subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. Catch you guys next time. Ciao.